Audio check, check, check. There's still a lot of printer noise, but it's going to be finished soon. So, looks like my printer is ready, or done, whatever we want to call this. So let's switch off all those unnecessary things and then move on to the main session today. I've seen we have already some audience in the channel. So for those people who hasn't seen the previous sessions, I'm going to finish, or I'm trying to finish my NES-RGB mod tonight. And I have already gathered a couple of things, tools, stuff we're going to need, but as a very first thing, you may see that there's something on my desk that looks a bit different. And this is an NTSC NES I've got from a online flea market for a very low amount of money, surprisingly low. And I just gave it a quick test today, and surprisingly it is working. At least it was working a minute ago. So there might be some connector issues still. Nope, it's not working any longer. That's strange. But well, anyway, it's not going to be the topic of this episode. No. I think I have replaced this connector already, but kind of refuses to work now. Oh, yeah, here we go. So. And the interesting thing is that here we can see the original NES composite video signal, and it is a bit blurry, it has some shivering in the picture and all that stuff, but well, it's 60 Hertz, and the reason why I have this on my desk right now is that I may consider turning my RGB modded NES PAL version into a NTSC version, but I haven't decided yet, so just trying to get one thing done and then I take care about the other. So and we have already some chat going on. Thanks everybody for joining. DVD Man 007, probably the first time I see you here on this. Thanks for joining. Cool, I am also very interested in this 3D printing stuff. Maybe you can tell us a bit on how to do it like the software EDC. Yes, so I may cover a part of this tonight while doing other things, but I can tell you I have planned, or I have already started kind of, to work on a 3D printed, no, not a 3D printed episode, that would be, well, rather strange. about I'm working on an episode about retro stuff and 3D printing. So where all those things come together and what can we use 3D printers for and all that stuff. And that's going to be a special episode, and I already started to prepare a couple of things, and as soon as I have finished the other stuff I have promised to do, then that's probably going to be one of the next topics. But while doing things on my desk, I can talk about this and that a little bit. So first thing, let's get rid of this one, because that's not going to be the topic of this episode. As you can see, it's a bit rusty, it's a bit dusty as well, and the connector is really hard to remove. And I already have replaced this cartridge connector because the original one looks a bit beaten up. So I have to do some cleaning, some realignment of those pins, and then I think it will work fine again. So let's put this aside. And as you can see, I have all the connectors required to run naked boards on my desk already available, and I keep them in a box, so every time I start to work on an NES I can just get this stuff out of the case, get rid of these metal sheets, they are pretty annoying, and then I have full access to the NES board. And you may have recognized I have added those two red wires here. That's the so-called region fix, because these foreign European cartridges aren't working on original NTSC NES, and therefore I had to do this little hack, and then it was working quite immediately. So it got some little water damage, perhaps some I don't know, storage issues. As you can see, it's rusty as well, it's dusty. So I may have to spend some time with this one, but I'm pretty happy that it is working, because the PPU chip is different compared to the PAL version. And if you want to have an NTSC NES, you really need the original NTSC PPU, or you get a replacement. Either way, but it's not possible to turn a PAL NES into a NTSC NES by just doing something. But that's quite the same for the C64, for example. You need a different rig and different timing quartz IC component, whatever you want to call this anyway. So let's put this aside. And let's go ahead with what we want to work on tonight. Just one thing. Let me check the channel. Told you about the live shows. HDMI version. No, it's not going to be the HDMI version. It's going to be the component version. And RGB is the king of retro signals. That's right. Yes, it solves so many problems. And the best thing is that we do not have to use the RetroTink to convert the composite signal into a component signal, and I'm very happy about this fact, because I'm not happy with the quality of the RetroTink, and especially I'm not happy about the price we have to pay for it, and therefore it is indeed very comfortable to use. So yeah, I was just a bit confused because of my HDMI wiring here. I just have to get rid of some cables so that we have a bit more space to work with. And one thing I'd like to mention is, you may have seen it on Twitter, I started to work on SCART cables, and oops, the thing I was really interested in is how they are wired on the SCART side, because you may have seen that I posted the very first videos coming out of this RGB modded NES, and I had some kind of shivering, and I had some irritation in the picture, especially on black backgrounds and something like this. And I thought it's probably going to be related to the SCART cabling or the internal wiring of this NES. But surprisingly, I just took the PSU of the OSSC, my scaler, and placed it in the very same power distributor I'm using for the NES PSU, and the effect is gone. The picture is perfect, and so maybe I spent a bit too much time working with those cables, but it's very interesting because I got basically 3 different cables. So the first one with the white wires, that's an original NES-RGB cable coming for those factory fitted RGB NES, and it has no additional components inside. And then I got one, I think I have to check. One was meant for the Mega Drive, I think, and another one was for the SNES or any other console. I have I have to check this. And one is coming with resistors, so they pull the signal, the RGB signal, against ground with those resistors. And the next one is coming with capacitors, and they use those capacitors as kind of how do you call that? Kind of level adjustment, or kind of potential distribution, potential adaptation system, so that there's no real connection between those two devices. And I got some mini DIN connectors as well, so that's the very same I have used on this NES. And I will at least build 2 cables out of it. I mean, it's not required to do another one like this because I have this already, but I think I'm going to test the other 2 and see if this is going to affect picture quality. So let's get this aside, have a look at the chat. Once you go RGB, there's no way back to composite or RF. Yes, indeed. So I mean, having a very good composite converter like the FrameMeister, then it is still an interesting option. But basically, if you really have stepped into the RGB or let's say component area, the YPBPR, then you don't want to see anything else. Well, the one I ordered from Asia is about half the price if you consider it was free shipping versus retroting from Europe. We will see when I get it. I hope it's not a fake, lol. Yes, I'm really looking forward to this one. So for half of the price, I think a RetroTing clone would be fantastic, just to convert a composite signal to components, and then everything will be fine. I mean, we do not need additional options, something like this. And then the next thing, I never knew NES came with factory fitted RGB, some late revisions or something. Now I think it's DC coupling. Yes, DC coupling. Thank you very much. I was looking for this term. The factory fitted NES is, let me check, it was still around here quite a while ago. But here we go. This is basically a region thing. I learned that most of those RGB prepared NES were available in France. I have no idea why. And it is a very odd thing because Guten Abend, Herr Daniel. Guten Abend, Herr Chris. Thanks for joining. And the story is, it is indeed a very weird thing. So they did this just for connection issues. It's not improving picture quality. I think it's almost the opposite. It's creating even a worse picture, because the PPU, the graphic chip of the NES, is creating a composite signal already. And the modulator, which is far more complex than the standard modulator you can find in a standard pale composite NES, is far more complex, and therefore they take this composite signal and turn it back into this, or they try to convert this into this RGB signal, and that's not being very perfect. And therefore I think it is just for connection issues if you have a TV set that has no composite or something like this. But it has standard SCART connector, and SCART is very famous, or it was very famous in the France area. And then you can connect your NES to this SCART TV. Unfortunately, this board isn't working. I couldn't figure out what's going to be the issue. The voltage regulator is providing 5 volts, and the board starts for a few seconds. I have a picture, and then it kind of switches off and then refuses to work for a longer period of time. So I assume that one of the capacitors perhaps is broken, and what I'm trying to do is basically the Jan Beta approach. I'm going to future-proof this NES, and to do so I have ordered a lot of parts already. So I got those new voltage regulators, those Muratas. I got capacitors, all for the PSU, the voltage controllers, and for the NES board as well. And then hopefully this one is coming back to life. I mean, it can't be a big issue because it starts. I got a picture, I've seen it already. So I assume that the ICs and everything works fine. I think there's just one component that creates some kind of a short circuit after a while, after heating up or something like this. So it's perhaps some, some capacitor leakage or something like this. And then I expect that this is going to be working fine. And if not, then I can simply replace the board because all the PAL boards are interchangeable. And then I can test this strange RGB modulator on a working NES board, but well, it's kind of a challenge. I really want to know why this isn't working. So now let's try to work on what we want to work tonight. So we got rid of the SCART cables, we got rid of the connectors, at least for a while. Let's put them in the box here. We got some power, we got the retro thing, we're going, hopefully not. Let's have this. So. Just have to get this out of the box so that we have access to the other side. And here we can see it in full beauty, the NES-RGB mod, and the things missing is basically just a connection from this daughter board so that I can use my controller to switch the pellets and to perform a reset. And one thing, yes, and the reset mod, so I can use well, the controller to perform a reset. This is what that I was saying right now. I was just thinking something else, but yes, we have to connect 3 wires on the NES board, and we have to create an interruption here on this connector, because this is, as we have seen it already, the connector for this one. And here we got power and reset, and we're going to exchange this LED against a RGB LED or a 2-color LED. Not too much RGB perhaps. And just from some technical perspective, this is a very interesting construct because the voltage regulator sits inside the modulator box, and usually you feed 9 or 10 volt DC into this box, and then this power is routed through this plug to the power connector, back through the plug into the PSU, and then it reaches the voltage regulator, which sits here, and then it is providing power to the board. So it takes a long way to switch the power, and they do this before the voltage regulator, not after the voltage regulator, which is a rather interesting construct. I have no idea why they did this, but actually it is working this way. So without this connector, the NES isn't working at all. And therefore you have to have this on hand if you work on hardware like this. So the last time we had some music, then let's do so as well. Just in case it's going to be boring. And it's a good chance to have a look at the chat. Yeah, SCART can carry all sorts of signal, almost. So I thought that you can use SCART for component as well, so YPBBR. But you can force the SCART connector to do so, but you will probably find no TV set that is working with this one. But basically SCART is just describing the mechanical part, but how you use all those connections is basically up to you, and not all SCART cables are the same. So there are some without RGB and some without composite, and I think you cannot mix composite and YC, so it's just one or the other, but yeah, basically. Then, first thing is to get those wires connected to this board. And this was the information I was missing the last time, so I had to stop on this point. So let's see if we can get this done tonight. I'm going to need my knife. Different frequencies. Yes. So for all those people out there who are waiting for C64 content, well, I'm going to return to the C64, I promise. But actually I'm so in love with the NES and the Famicom consoles that I just have to go through this for a while, and then I'm working on a C64 content as well, so I was tended to do one episode about C64 stuff this week, but I really have to get some pieces together until I can work on the next content. So I decided to do this Neo Geo Mini fix, and as soon as this NES stuff is done, I am promising I go and work on C64 stuff again. Some people already recommended to rename the channel to C64 / Game Boy / NES / whatever customs, but that's probably not going to happen. But well, who knows? Maybe I'm going to rename it into 8-bit customs or something like this. Wouldn't fit with the Game Boy Advance, but I'm not sure whether I do that much stuff about the Game Boy Advance. It's a very interesting thing, especially if you're traveling, but it's not so retro. So, getting older, need some glasses. So, just have to have some tea. So now I have to have a look at my window about where I have to wire this stuff. So Oh, it is just a strange format. Oh, okay. So, data connected to U7 pin 2. Okay, U7 is going to be the one on the top. So that's one of the controller ICs. It's connected to control ports. And this IC established the communication with your controller. So unlike the Atari C64 whatever controllers, it's not that all the contacts are routed directly into your device. You have two control ICs and they communicate over a serial protocol. So this IC is basically asking the controller, please tell me the status of the different buttons, one after each other. And therefore you have a very good protection of the NES. So you may know that in the C64 you have this CIAs, those interface ICs, and they are a bit sensitive to unplugging, plugging a joystick device or something like this. And on the NES this is far more stable. So therefore it's an interesting approach, but it wouldn't work for a keyboard, or at least you have to establish another communication channel to a keyboard and perhaps to ask for the status of around about 50 keys isn't probably not working within a frame. So you may have to come up with something else, but that's not a very uncommon. So we know that the next two wires are going to be connected to the CPU, so we can route them all that way along here. But the green one, which is my data, has to be connected to U7, and therefore going to split them here, and it's pin 2, 1, 2. That's not too far away. Therefore we may just shorten it at this position. 8-bit customs. I may have to start a vote on this. Is the music on or very quiet? Yes, the music is on, but very quiet. That's right. Some people complain about that when I'm running music on a channel, they can't understand me anymore. So I keep it a bit dimmed, and I have a sidechain compressor. So as soon as I talk, the music will calm down a bit, and then if I just shut up, which is quite rare, I admit, then the music is back on. So pin 2, unfortunately it's not available on top of the board, and I'm not willing to look whether there is a VIA somewhere around, so we just solder this onto the pin of the IC itself. I hope it's not going to mind about this. It's all for a good purpose. Bit close to the third pin, so let's move it a bit. Much love for Amiga and my love, yeah. Did you get on the Keys fundraiser? Yes, indeed. I backed the hell out of it, so to say. Just kidding. I think I bagged 3 key sets, 3 complete key sets, and 3 additional function key sets, but I haven't decided about the colors yet. So I think I'm going to be a bit conservative. So I'm probably just going for the beige version and the black transparent version. I'm not looking for those fancy transparent versions, but well, I haven't decided yet, so that's really something I have to think about. And I mean, I was one of the early bird backers, and there it wasn't really foreseeable to say like this that they come up with so many different colors. And if I have knew about the color choices later on, I may have backed even more key sets, but this way I'm quite happy that I haven't done so, because I see myself ending up with bags of keys and then I have maybe not real usage for it. I have no idea. It's probably not so hard to sell them later, but I really have to stop stacking or stocking stuff just for the sake of it, and I really have to get things when I need them, and it's hard, I have to admit, but yeah. So latch CPU pin 39. Latch is blue. 39, it's going to be the last pin. The second to last, sorry. And there is no trace we can use. No, it's just on the other side. So we have to do the very same here. And let's see if we can put something under. I wanted a red set and a neon blue set. We should up a trader pool to mix and match specific tones. Yes, on the forum 64 there are people are really like crazy. They started to use Photoshop or GIMP or something like this, and they created multicolored keyboards with 3, 4, 5 different colors. So having one color for the number keys, one color for the letters, and another color for all those function keys, and it's really, there's a lot of very interesting stuff, but I'm not sure if this is going to be what I'm looking for. So clock to pin 36, I may have to focus myself a little bit. 39876, and I think 36 had a trace. I can't see it right now. Oh yeah, it's just hidden below this U6, so this point is going to be the trace for 36, 7, 8, 9, 40, yeah. So we can use this point here. Let's try this first. Oh, nope. Yep, better. And the last one. May cut this a bit. So much about those 3 wires. Let's just put them under the board so that it looks a bit better. So I may just kind of keep them in place with some hot glue. But let's call this a working version and keep it like this. So, and now we have to perform this reset modification. And he was telling me that I have to disconnect something, but let's have a look at the pictures. Just like to be sure that we are working on the correct pin. So, yes. And now just change my window to this one. But you can see what I can see. Well, it's probably still a bit too big. What's that? So, this is a bit better now. And then let's look where we can find the reset modification. There we go. So they disconnected this pin and fed it back to ground, which is strange. Maybe they broke it during the operation, because I thought it is ground. Be sure hoarding is hard habit to break. I am guilty. Yes. It's the very same here on my side, I have to admit. Maybe we have to look for a therapist or so. No, that's not ground. Interesting. So why did they break this? Let's have a look at the original source of this mod. This kind of confuses me a bit. So... change the window source. Okay. Oh. Pinout jumper diagram, front loading NES. So this mod is available for the Famicom as well, and you may have seen that I own a Famicom too, and it would be very interesting to see this mod on a Famicom, but I'm a bit reluctant because it's a bit pricey. May have to check whether I can get the parts from different sources. So basically I bought this one as a kit, and it contains a lot of parts which I can probably source from somewhere else for a better price. So okay, he isn't covering this modification because he's just talking about the main board, not this daughter board installation. So let's have a look at text file again. Maybe it can help us a bit more. It's gone. Where is it? Still don't understand why he's breaking those two wires. I really don't understand the reason for the modification of this pin here. So I think yellow is going to be reset. That's something we can check. Reset is going to be this pin, and this is yellow, and yellow is going to be connected to the second pin, so that's right. And white is going to be, let me check, the LED. Ah, I see, okay. So, since we are going to change the LED, we may have to disconnect this. Because, yes, well, no. We just... This is ground, so we keep ground anyway. And we add the new LED, and we may just leave it in place as it is. I'm not going to need this anymore, but it makes no sense to disconnect this on the connector side here. But anyway, we have to get this thingy out of the board, because I don't want to destroy the connector. I really want to desolder it, and then I just bend it, and then I connect the wires to here, which is hopefully, probably going to be the more reliable, or let's say returnable option. So, just got my 3D print out of the printer. And perhaps a bit hard to read. It says Game Boy, because it's another tray for my Game Boy games. And it has worked quite okay. I have a very small warping on one side and on one corner as well. But this is probably the worst PLA I can find on the market. It's really very, very cheap, and it has an interesting thing. It changes the color after a couple of centimeters or something like this, which happened not on this particular. And now I can put in my C64. My Game Boy cartridges into this tray so that I'm not going to lose them. So, this is how it looks like. Got already one that's full, and now I have another one. But no space to place it. Okay. So, let's have a look at the chat. Okay, nothing happened so far. So, I just muted the microphone during this operation. And let's see if we can get this out of this ball right now. It's a bit reluctant. No, it's working fine. So, now we can bend this pin, but it's not touching the board any longer. Oh, it's a strong pin. May need still a bit. And I think we may connect this. Well, no, we can do this from the other side, so it's basically no problem. Just have to place this back. And then we're going to need some wire. Well, let me check whether I have some. Oh, here are the wires I was looking for the last time. Interesting. This message is held for review. What's wrong? Oh shit, what up? Okay. Probably YouTube is a bit sensitive about swearing or so. And maybe it's my responsibility to keep you aware about this. But basically, I don't care. Talking about responsibility, yesterday I did a Neo Geo Mini live playing stream here on YouTube, and obviously during this we were listening to music coming from the Neo Geo Mini, and guess what? This morning I found a copyright claim in my inbox, and somebody is claiming that he or she owns the rights for a certain part of music, the intro music of Blazing Star. And I was checking the original music file they refer to, and it sounds totally different. So I have actually no idea what they really want. But since this video wasn't monetized anyway, oh, my buggy soldering station is misbehaving again. So maybe I'm going to do a live session about debugging my soldering station. It's really strange, it works for hours and then it simply stops to do so. And especially at the very beginning, it is not working at all. And it takes about half an hour, something like this, and then it's kind of coming back to life. Very, very strange. So. Boca's retro stuff, good evening. I remember you from yesterday. That's right. I have really a very bad name memory, so I'm sorry. So just have to check. Reset out onto the PCB, the blue, and the other one is going to be onto this pin. So let's do this pin thingy first, and we're going to use some shrink insulation material. That's the LED. So I need some solder material. Yesterday. Yes, sorry about my long confusing nickname. Hey, no problem, no problem. I mean, especially on YouTube we tend to name ourselves like the content we want to provide. I went through this hassle already since I started this channel as a channel about my music project. And my music project is called Kieferknistern. And then I kind of figured out that I have a lot of fun working on retro hardware. And then I went for this C64 customs later on. But there are some places you can't change your name. So I think on Twitter I still run under Kieferkn, KN, the abbreviation. And I can't change it there. And Twitch, for example, I'm using the same nick. So let's place this into the PCB wire as well, and then let's turn it around. And then let's solder it back. We really have to, I have to keep in mind that we have to connect the red wire here as well. That's for the region fix. So the next tech-related episode about the C64 is going to be about SID replacements or SID alternatives, or SID chip alternatives, whatever you want to call this. And for this episode I'm going to compare Ultimate 64, the so-called Aldi SIDs, to a standard SID as well. And when I'm working on this episode, which I kind of started already, I will record more of the music we are listening to. And you may have recognized it's from the very same artist. And I got permission to use his music as background music. But he's a very productive man, and he has created a lot of new tracks already. And I can't keep up recording the stuff, but I keep promising that I'm going to do so. And this is going to happen. So, just have to check whether this is something we have to... Ah, it has already flowed to the other side. So, basically, this should work right now. So let's give it a test and then we move on to the LED part. So, power, connector, controller. One thing I'm probably going to do is I will create a controller with a shorter cable. I'm really having a hard time cutting the cable, but I'm using the NES on my desk most of the time, and basically I do not need this 1.5 meter long, or I don't know, long cable. So I probably modify one of the connectors to have a shorter cable, but this requires cutting an original cable, or I find a source for those special type of connectors. So, smoke, flames, whatever we're going to see right now. You got a picture at least, that's a good sign. And controller still working. And now I need a short information how this controller operated functions are working. So let me check quickly. So start select plus AB should perform a reset. No. Start select plus D-pad left or right should switch through the palettes. Nope. So maybe I have mixed up the controller inputs, which could be, well, let's check whether it is working on controller 2. Nope. Not doing anything at all. So start select. Nope, that's not working. So let me check what's wrong. So pictures. So that's basically for the LED. And the arrow was reset, and he told me to connect RST out to the PCB. So let's check this again. Reset out to the PCB, reset in to the blue contact. So reset out to the PCB, reset in to this contact. So this is what we have done. That's fine. So what's wrong then? This is the LED. I still don't understand why he did this with this white wire. I highly doubt that this is related to this reset thing, because this is the LED connection. Reset in and out. U6, 36, 40, 39, 48, 37, 36, and 39. That's how we have done this as well. And pin 2 on this IC. This is what we have done as well. Data latch clock. Data U7 pin 2. That's right. Let me cross check whether we got some. No short circuit either. connection is there as well. Very strange. Is your dog snoring? Yes, my dog is snoring. You can hear that. He's just behind me. And yeah. He's old, he's about 12 years old now, so... Channel 1, Channel 2... It's interesting, almost everything is labeled on the board, but not which contact is going to be channel 1, channel 2, but I mean I tested both of them, so... Very strange, very strange. Let's test it again. I think the cable's long enough. So, controller 1 is working, so I assume this is going to be port 1. And then I'm supposed to press start, select, and D-pad left or right. But nothing has happened. Is reset still working? No, reset isn't working any longer. So we may have mixed up something. Reset pin 4. So reset is connecting the yellow wire to ground. And the ground is basically orange, pin in the middle. At least I guess so. Let's test this. Yes. Pin in the middle is ground. So. And this is coming back from the controller. So if we put ground on this pin, then we should see a reset. Let's test this. Kind of. So. And second controller port work maybe. Well, yeah, I tested the second controller port as well. but it wasn't working. But let's test it again. So we need a controller on port 1 to operate the whole system. So we got some controllers. Maybe this one is working. Nope. It's not doing anything at all. Nope. Something is wrong. So let's check whether we get some power on this board. There's an insect. Ground. 5 volts. Yes. 3 volts. Yes. So this is working fine. Then let's check something else. That's interesting. Thought it was going to be here. Unsupported signal. What is that? Strange. Just recognize that my scene with the oscilloscope isn't working any longer. That's very strange. I thought I got everything together again. Strange. That's something I have to address sometimes. Now let's see if we can have some comments. There's basically nothing on those pins. I was expecting some kind of signal. Ah, this is either low or high, okay. Data is plain dead. Ah, there's something every now and then. Okay, now I got some kind of signal. It's really a bit annoying that this oscilloscope view isn't working any longer. Can't remember that I've changed something. Can you see it maybe with the LED when it's implemented? Yeah, hopefully, probably. That's something we can test. So on this pin I can see that those ICs are sending out data requests to the controllers. So this is working, and it's probably going to be the very same signal here. Yes. Yeah. So, and ledge is on. Oh, I got some signals here as well. And I got some signals here. They do not change when I press some buttons. Test the other controller. Ah, yes, a very small change in signal. Oh, not really. So my impression is, it's really sad that you can't see what I see. Let me try to fix this. So what can be wrong? Maybe my oscilloscope lost VGA connection. Video capture device at existing online. So that's basically wrong. This needs to be a different one. No signal. That's supposed to be the frame master. Let's see if it turns blue or black, whatever. Yes, that's the frame master, that's fine. Then you got channel 3, and there it is. Whatever happened, I have no idea. We may have to protect this. So, great. So, you may remember what I have mentioned at the beginning, or sometimes in between, I can't remember. The NES is communicating over those two communication ICs, so basically serial ICs, and there's a counterpart in the controller as well. And the IC is asking the controller, please tell me the status of the buttons. And then the controller is sending the status of the buttons one after each other. And this daughter board is basically just listening to this conversation and is waiting until those ICs are communicating. There are basically 4 buttons pressed, and then it is supposed to do something. And this is something we should see. And to have some kind of synchronization, the NES is sending out a clock signal to the controllers. And it is doing so maybe most of the time in between the frames, so in this V blank phase or in this H blank phase. V blank, I think. Or this is doing this during the frame, something like this. So, and if we just connect this to here, we can see that there's something going on. So, that much, but it is doing something. And if you press some buttons, nothing happens. Oh yes, here we go. Here we can see the different buttons. Okay. So the signal looks a bit strange to me, but interesting. It's either very short okay. Oh, what's going on in the chat? I saw that the OSSC Pro is in the works. Oh, but still no composite IC in. Kinda bummed about that. Okay, so what it is doing then? But for the OSSC they're adding a 2x20 pin GPIO connector for future expansion possibilities such as composite and SVU input module and much more. And well, this would be very interesting to get this for the OSSD. So basically what we have learned right now is that on control we have the signal of our buttons. And this is our, okay, it's data latch clock. And data is supposed to go to U7 pin 2. This is where we see the changes of our buttons. And then latch is going to CPU pin 39. That's the second signal that looks like this. Pin 39. Oh, I think I see what I have done wrong. I mixed those two wires. Blue and lilac are supposed to be in a different order. So, unfortunately, the oscilloscope wasn't helping with this, but it looks nice. And we have seen how this data transport is working. So let's switch those two wires and see if we have a difference. So, next try. Let's see what happens now. So, we learned that this is controller 1. Yes, no, that's controller 2, but I mixed the wires here. Complex. Start, select A, B. It is doing something. Ah, and the palette switch is working. Interesting. And now we can cycle through the different color palettes until we find one that looks nice. Ah, cool. And it is still working. So, let's check the color palettes again. Well, basically, I can't say which one looks better, but there are obviously some differences. So, start, select A, B. That's not really a reset. It is doing something, but it's not looking like a reset. So that's indeed a bit strange. We lost the reset function on the bottom, and we do not have a reset function on the gamepad anymore. So there's probably still something not working as expected. So let's check this again. Good to know. We will wait and see. Maybe it will be implemented from the start. I hope so. Cool. The thing was how to man-in-the-middle solution for YC to OSSC, but it hasn't lived up to the expectation. Yeah, that's very right, yeah. We are seeing difference in the signal. RGB is like 1 billion times better looking versus the old composite. Yes, that's right. And I mean, the main purpose for this palette switch is that the color space is slightly different compared composite to RGB, and some people prefer a slightly different representation of the color. And I learned that some games are really looking a bit strange with this newer palette, and therefore it is interesting to see that we now have choices. Still don't understand why we do not have this reset function. I'm not sure whether Tetris is a good game to test this. Let's see if we can find something else with better colors. And then we're going to address the reset issue and move on to the RGB LED. Good chance to drink something. So we got a chance to cycle between some brownish, some kind of dim brownish, dim at all, and kind of bright colors. Interesting. Scanline's not scaling well to the stream. Okay, well, we can get rid of the scanlines as well. No problem. Everything is adjustable. How can I go back? Yeah, okay. Conquest. Move army. I have no idea where I am. But put men in your army. Okay, so probably not going to play the game anyway. Now we have to figure out what's going wrong with our reset signal. And let's try it with this one. Reset out. So that's basically this one. And we're going to press a lot of buttons where we need a lot of fingers for. You should see some kind of a difference. By a brief moment in time, something happens. Okay. So let's see if we can. So pulls the signal to ground. That's right. That's fine. That's what we want. But I wonder why the signal is so low. I think this is how the signal is supposed to look like when it's coming out from here. So reset. I assume reset is bridging those two connections, and this is supposed to be... What's that? That's high. Okay, that's not ground, that's 5 volt. And this is basically nothing. Remains high all the time. This is kind of illogical to me. This is strange. How is it working? Scan lines look fine and was on my player side, okay. Looks phenomenal. Emulation quality on LCD. Try swapping the sears, yes. Well, actually I'm trying to figure out how this reset switch is working. And I think the best way to do so is to have a look inside. So... I can't see what I'm doing. Come on. There we go. So. It is connecting the two contacts to each other, like we have expected. And we were assuming that one of the contacts is ground. No, it isn't. Okay. Why not? Orange. The orange wire is the one in between. Oh, I hope I get this together. Get this assembled sometimes. So it looks like. Ah. Okay, my fault. I was still measuring voltage and not connection. So, orange, that's fine. Orange, okay. And if we're going to bridge this, then it's going back on yellow. And we just have to figure out what orange is all about. And for this we need some power. And orange is 5 volt. Okay. So we got 5 volt on this side. And the strange thing is that we got 5 volt on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is I take another NES. And let's have a look like how it looks. Let's have a look how it looks like on this one. Running a bit out of space here. So power. So we got ground. Come on. At 5 volts and no 5 volts on the other side. So basically reset is working by distributing 5 volts to the yellow line, and the yellow line is the reset line. That's where we have this blue thingy connected. So since I mixed up those wires already, let's check twice. Maybe I have mixed them here too. Would be a strange evening, but anyway. Reset out to the PCB. Reset out. Out. So that's reset out. Blue wire going to the PCB. Green in, going to pin 4 of those group of 5. Oh, second pin from the right, or whatever we want to call this. But something is wrong with this. Then let's have a look at the pictures. Maybe we can see something there. Reset out. Going to the PCB. Okay. And reset in. This wire going to the connector. Very strange, very strange. Kind of running out of ideas about this one. Still don't understand why he is modifying the first pin. Which is supposed to be white. And white is this one. And this one is not related to our reset thing. This is just for the LED. But if he wants to have ground for the LED, he can use this one. But we learned that this is not ground, this is 5 volts. And he needs ground for the LED. Okay, well this makes sense. And it's not used for something else? Okay, so in order to get the 2-color LED to work, we have to modify this as well. That's not going to change our reset behavior, but at least. Then let's put this together before I'm going to lose all the parts. Kind of started already. It's a typical freehand job with no space for even one. So, what's preventing this one to get back? So, nothing. So, this is back in order. That's fine. Now we just have to bend those little noses. And then let's desolder this pin and the LED, and then let's get done the wiring for the LED. And then, well, I don't know. The strange thing is that I forgot to ask about this one. He sent me an SMD resistor, which is gone now. Oops. I thought that's all. It's in the bag, but maybe it's somewhere on my desk. Yeah. And I have no idea what I have to do with this one. Low, high. Very strange, very strange. What's written on it? Really hard to see. $1002. Okay, so it's a resistor. But there's no resistor missing somewhere. That's very strange, very strange. So I may have to ask him about the purpose of this resistor and why this reset isn't working. That's strange, that's really strange. So in terms of documentation, this is not a good example. But it's indeed a bit annoying that we do not have reset at all, but I can restore reset by just desoldering those wires and just connect them, and then my reset button is back to work, but the functionality of the board not. Anyway, let's move on with the LED. So we have to desolder this and have to desolder the LED. The mysterious resistor. So, for those who are wondering about why this is so complicated, basically this RGB kit is available without the starter board, and then you simply connect a 3-position switch to those 3 pins here, for those 3 pins, and then you can use a switch on the back or wherever you want to install this, and then you can kind of pre-select your palette you want to use, and you do not have to go through the hassle of all those additional wiring. And I was just curious to see how this is implemented, how is it working, and if it really adds something, let's say in terms of comfort or something like this. Having a reset on your button would be nice for those multi-game cartridges where you want to flick through the games without reaching out to your console, which is so far away in my case, not. And this reduces the costs of this RGB mod as well, so it's probably more recommendable than now I have to desolder all the pins again, or let's just try by we can pull it out. It sounds like I have to do some cleaning. So let's hope it is working the way I want this to work, by simply pulling out this pin here. But I bet it's not going to work because it's still soldered on the side. Nope. A bit. May work. Let's try it. Channel is so quiet. Still someone there? It's going to be an awful procedure. It's not something that wants to get pulled. Now it looks like we have to desolder the whole connector again. I mean, basically, if we're just going to use 3 wires instead of 2, we can leave it as it is. Let me check twice. That's 5 volt and that's the power for the LED. So if we simply glue in the LED and going to use a 3rd wire to provide ground to the LED, then I think we're fine. And there are plenty of ground connections on this board. So let's see if we go this way. Next week there's going to be the Amiga gathering convention, call it Interface. It's I think very close to Kiel, so somewhere in the surroundings of Kiel here in Germany, and I'm going to be there. So if you have the chance, and if you're close by or something like this and interested in Amiga stuff and you want to meet me or other Amiga guys, then feel free to come to Kiel. I understand that this is probably going to be a bit tricky for our American friends. But maybe sometimes I'm going to find a sponsor or so, and then probably I'm going to visit some events on the other side of the ocean. As long as Matt Donald will let me go into the US. So, let's do a quick test. And see what happens. So we need still some connectors. And we need our gamepad with some connector. Still here, just busy packing up a C64 someone in Louisiana. Oh, cool. It's going to have a journey. I would have come, but I live in Norway. Yeah. How's the weather in north of Norway? Do we have some winter? Or is it as warm as here in Germany? Oh, I'm sorry. So, let's have a last view at the pictures. So, yes, the middle is ground, and left and right is going to, let me guess, to green and red of this board. Okay, so basically when I'm going to power this on, I expect to see something. The LED is red. And now let's press some buttons. Ah, okay. This pipe's a bit hard to see, so let's zoom in. I have a representation of the palette I have chosen. So it's red, green, orange and nothing. Okay. So LED is working. And when I try to perform a reset, then it is flashing for a short moment. So now we know that the daughter board has got an idea. Just recognize that this capacitor is soldered quite badly. We may improve this, but I doubt that this is going to change something with our reset signal. So I have to write the provider of this kit, what's the reason for this resistor and why my reset isn't working. But basically, let's put it together. I was tempted to replace the capacitors, but this is going to take a while because we have to desolder the modulator. We can see the bottom of the PCB from here, but I do not have access to the capacitors on the other side. We may replace the big one, and we have access to those three here, but I think that's going to be another session, so that's nothing I want to do tonight. And just going to bring this back into the case. So let's replace this. And then let's put this into, we may have to make this a bit nicer, I think. I may just shorten the pins and leave it like it is. before I solder this and put some heat shrink insulation material over it. But in order to get this out of this case later, it's probably more convenient to have this removable. So yeah, let's do it like this. I can solder this to the LED later still. So, nice and tidy. Now just put a small blob of heat glue on it. It'll warm a bit. So, looks good. And then let's remove what we are not going to need anymore. And while I'm bringing this back into the case, let's come back to a question from the very beginning about 3D printing software and so. And basically I'm using Design Spark Mechanical. That's a kind of CAD program to design the parts. And then I'm using Cura as the 3D splicer for the printer. Ah, there's a small issue. Okay. This won't fit. What? Yeah. And I have a small laptop on the left hand side here, the right hand side, I'm sorry. And this is acting as my print server. You may have seen this at the beginning of the video, and I'm running the Repetier server on it. And this has basically the advantage that I can spool print jobs and that I can kind of control it remotely via web interface. And this is working even when I'm outside, so I can use my mobile phone and have access to my 3D printer. And I'm using an old Samsung S3 Mini phone as my printer cam. And with this I have the chance to see what the printer is doing. So, and this is very handy if I'm printing things that take a little bit longer. Just have a small issue with my wires here. So if I have to leave home for whatever reason, something is in the way, then I can leave the printer working and can check occasionally whether everything looks fine. And if not, I can stop the print from outside. So something has changed. And that's basically, well, how I work with 3D printing. So there's a lot of stuff at Thingiverse. So a lot of retro related parts like cases and other things. And you can download the objects from there and then you just put them in your so-called slicer. And then you can print them right away. And there are people on the Forum 64 as well. They create objects and most of them upload them to Thingiverse. And then you have access to them, and you may now know Sven Peters. He's doing a lot of stuff as well. And he has some objects there too. I think he's working on this joystick right now. So what's the problem here? Now it looks better. Okay. Other way around, yeah. I have to remember this. We have a bit snow on the ground, but not that much. Whoa, that's really... That's a very, very strange thing. I mean, we talk about the north of Norway. I expect a lot of snow at this time of the year. But if you do not have snow, then, well... I'm not going to wonder why we have no snow in Germany either. And chat is scrolling out a bit, let me check. It's been very calm lately and just a couple of minus degrees. Usually it would be like much colder this time, yeah. That's the very same for Germany. Usually at mid-January towards February it's going to be very cold here in Germany. And the last days they felt almost like spring, so it's really weird. Pegu 06, just realized it was 4 minutes behind whatever, I have no idea. Vittorio Rebecci, hi, nice to find you online. I'm planning a similar mod to my NES. Okay, I wish you the very best for this. And just for your information, I'm going to compress these live sessions to a more condensed version, so probably something around an hour or something like this. Try to cover the most important things about this mod. I was going to change this reset thing. Okay, then let's do this later. So that I have at least one reset function. But for now, let's just boot this again and see if it is still doing something. And for this, let's go for a cartridge where we need a reset button. Damn it. Oops. So, let's go back to scan lines. Because I like scan lines. Adventure Islands. Let's have a look at Adventure Islands. Ah, that was a strange game with this half-naked boy. Okay. Now videos will be a base to see if it's a thing I can do by myself or I must give it to my much expert friend. So basically the major issue you may face is getting the PPU out of the NES board because there are some areas with a lot of copper and the holes are very tiny on the NES. And if you have a good desoldering gun, then it's going to work quite fine. But I did this by placing the board in some kind of vertical alignment, having the desolder gun on one side, on the bottom part of the PCB, and heating the pins of the PPU with an additional soldering iron, just to ensure that I get all that solder material sucked through the hole. Because they are so small, it's really hard just to heat it from one side and get it really melted and get it through the board. So if you have, well, kind of mastered this step, then everything is going to be quite okay. You may have to pay attention to some of this wiring, but basically it is not that much rocket science if you go for the version with the switch, the palette switch. If you have a mechanical switch somewhere on the rear of your NES, then it's going to be much easier. What we have done tonight was just getting this palette switch by controller installed, and this was a bit tricky to master. And now I can switch through the different palettes here. Some are not making a huge difference, but this one looks a bit more brightish. Ah! So the reset is doing something, but it's not really... The NES is not really impressed by it. That's really strange. But fortunately it is booting very fast, so let's have a look at the next one. And you can make some suggestions in the chat if you want me to check a certain game. You're very much welcome, and if you have some specific question, feel free to ask. And the other 2 sessions we have done already are still available on my channel, and so you can have a look there. Maybe you just jump to the video because they are a bit lengthy, because this was more about the journey. And I think it is sometimes interesting to see how those mods are done, because if you see videos like from the Jan Bieler, for example, or Gadget UK, they create a cut version of the videos, and which is very nice for the purpose of just going through progress. But you kind of lose the sense how long all that stuff really takes, or how long it is, yeah. How much time it is required to get this stuff done. And I thought, well, let's do it live, and for people who wants to know it, then they can watch, and if not, then so we can cycle through different palettes now and find one that looks good. That's not going to be my favorite game, I have to admit. Have a good night. Gotta run out and get some errands check off. Thanks for joining. Have a nice day, night, whatever, Chris. And see you soon. Well, let's test another game. Let's have a look at Batman. Batman has some very good graphics. Start. Oh, and here it is very obvious. So here it is very brownish, greenish, dim, and now it's kind of bright. That's somewhere in the middle. Oh, that's interesting. I can really find the one that fits the best. Oh. Just have to remember the controls. And have to be a bit faster, I think. So, there was a way to switch weapons. Can't remember how it was. But there aren't so many buttons on the controller, so... Can't remember how I was switching weapons. Couldn't be that hard, I guess. Was probably not pause function. I managed to do so, or maybe I do not have any by now. Ah, okay. I hadn't collected any, so... Now we can get rid of the bad boys. Oh. Still have to... Ooh, I died. But well, yeah, I think here it is very obvious how we can cycle through the pallets. And I think I like this one the most. This one has some stronger red colors, but yeah, I think the distribution is a bit better. So this looks pretty nice so far, and this is with the LED off. Okay, that's going to be a bit well, strange to learn that my NES is working without an LED. And now it's not coming back. Strange. Bionic Command, Blaster Master, Bomberman. Let's have a look at Bomberman. Oh. Oh, I died. Okay, so this is not as colorful as I had it in mind. Let's see what we can find else. Bomberman 2, Bubble Bubble. Okay. The game with the brain melding melody. Oh, wrong button, okay. It sounds a bit too slow to me, so I think this is going to be a NTSC game, not a PAL game. And it feels a bit slow as well, but well, actually it's just about the color. About 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, I was visiting Jan Beta and we had a Twitch live gaming session and we played Bubble Bubble, and it was the very first time that I have finished the game, I have to admit. I never had the patience to play the game, and that was a very interesting session, I have to admit. So the cool thing about this palette switch, it looks like it is remembering the last palette. Double Dragon, probably going to be too hard. Gallagher, Goonies. Radius. Ah, great. It's hard. Oh! Missed one. Damn it, no! So here it is, a bit subtle. Not very huge difference, but well, there's one. Oh, my fault. No, no, I lost my power-ups. So anyway, I mean, this is just more for testing of different color palettes and whether this is a useful option or not. And I consider this indeed as a useful option. If it is required to have this controller oriented switch, it's probably up to you. As I said, if you skip this option, if you just use a standard switch somewhere installed on your NES, then you can save about 20 euros, I think, or dollars, wherever you want to get this from. The kit is, I think, available from Tim directly from Australia. I haven't checked whether he is still offering them or if it was some kind of bulk order, something like this, somewhere on NES forum. But I bet there are other sources as well. I got mine from Germany, from, I can tell you, videogamesreanimate.de. Very nice bloke. I was quite a while in contact with him. He's named Daniel as well, so can't go wrong with this one. And he was indeed very helpful. I mean, he missed a couple of information at the beginning, but he sent it by email immediately after I requested them, and I'm going to ask him about the strange reset behavior and what's the reason for this additional resistor. And then I think we are going to get reset back on my device as well. And so long, I think that's going to be enough for this night, for this evening. As I said, I'm going to create this wrap-up video and put this on my channel as a normal, regular episode. And then there will be some more NES stuff in the future. But I have some C64 topics I have to work on, and that's going to be a priority, since I still named as C64 Customs, but the idea to rename the channel into 8-Bit Customs, it's something I'm going to consider. Probably going to confuse a few people, but I think, well, they're going to get used to it, and then it's going to be fine. I'm looking at the games you run, and the result is quite nice. Yes, indeed. I really like it so far. And I'm not sure whether you have seen the first videos. I had some issues with interferences. I had some shivering in the picture and some disturbance in especially black backgrounds. But I could solve this by just moving the power supply of the OSSC to the very same power distribution socket I'm using for the PSU of the NES. And now the picture's really crystal clear. There's some stuttering, but this is just a thing I think down to OBS right now. But if you put this on a direct HDMI input using the OSSC, or if you have an RGB enabled TV set or something like this, then there's no issue with smoothness or something like this. And yeah, that's all so far. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this a bit as well. And if you have not done so yet, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, or even considering joining the channel membership. Then you may get access to more information and you have some privileges which are others not going to have. Well, or you can support me on Patreon or on Ko-Fi, whatever feels comfortable to you. And the money will be used to buy new things, to test, to mod, and then there will be some occasionally giveaways or something like this. And I'm going to support other people's. You may have seen it on Twitter, especially in the Christmas time. I sent some stuff to Marty in the Czech Republic, and I sent a VIC-2 for a C64 to Argentina, I think. So that's going to be the usage or the purpose of collecting money. Anyway, so thanks for watching, and see you for the next streams, next episodes, more or less soon. Bye bye.